Hello, everyone. This is Bitcoin Core app design call number 37. I can't believe it's actually number 37. It's kind of crazy. Because I have to, at some point, it'll be fun to look back and watch some old recordings and just laugh at ourselves, maybe, or just be surprised about the amazing work we did. But anyways, if you're watching this, welcome. For all the others, thank you for participating. And Jakob is on vacation, Gerald is at a conference, and Hebasto may not join, so we're a small group today. And I guess there are two things we can talk about. One is what's currently in development, and the other thing is any ongoing design tasks. And then we can also introduce Johnny to the project, if there are any questions or discussions to be had there, which I'm sure there are. Shashwat, you just got done moving, right? So how are you doing? Did you manage to keep up with things, or were you just completely out of the project for a week?
I was quite some time for like 3-4 days completely out of the project, but last 2 days I'm getting back to all the works. So recently I reviewed some of the PRs and getting myself back to work. So yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I think Gerald was quite busy the last couple of weeks. Let's take a look at the code repository. So I looked over it earlier real quick, and I don't think there's anything huge, anything in development that we should review right now. Shashwat, or are you aware of anything else? So there's this init error window to which we had some different discussion around what that should look like. I created a video around it with my suggestions, and there was a little bit of discussion. I don't know if that was enough or not, but that's where we are with that.
I have a small doubt regarding the storage settings option, the detailed one. So in the PR 158, yes, the PR 158, I asked those questions and have mentioned that it's better to discuss with the designer team as well. So we can take that up if we can.
That was here. Yeah, so generally this PR is just about replacing fake options with actual real options that work. So that's fine, right? That's just the purpose, and this PR does a good job at that. Then the next one is looking at where the options currently are and then just rethinking if they're in the right place, right? And you had a comment here. Is enable property to settings control? Okay, it was just about the disabled state. Is that what you mean?
I had some question in the resolve section as well. The show resolve, the third one.
I'm sorry, the third?
Yes, show resolve, the third one. Means the comments.
I'm sorry, I'm still not getting it.
Okay. The review I done 2 days ago, I posted 3 comments in that. So the third one, I'm talking about that.
So there's a different comment in here.
Yes. Scroll down a little bit. Okay. Stop. Up, a little up. Okay. Show resolved one.
This one here.
Yes. So it has 3 comments, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I see one connection options, storage settings, and then the last one doesn't have a number. Doesn't giving a storage limit imply that only the recent block will be stored, so it's providing a separate option for store only recent blocks. Correct. That's what you mean.
No. Can you see the show resolved written on the screen? Show resolved in the bottom bar, the gray one.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not getting it. I'm slow today, apparently. Let me think of something to blame it on.
It happens with the best of us as well.
Okay, so here, the last comment in here from 28 minutes ago. Okay. The storage location page provides 2 options, the default directory and the custom directory. And as per my understanding, clicking on the custom directory will open the file manager, allow the user to choose the directory location. Okay, let's just pull up the screens here. So you're talking about
the storage location page and the storage detail settings.
So this one here? Okay, you're talking about here? This one?
Yes. Yes, this one and storage detail settings. That is storage setting page. The row to column one, yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that right screen really, if this is storage location, this should be called storage amount or so, or hard drive usage or something like that.
I'm not quite understand. Could you explain it, Christoph? The repetition on the screens.
Yeah, so this screen here has two options, right? It's our simple option, the happy path. We give the users very simple things that pretty much everyone can understand, and those are two options that are both equally awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's like we do our best guess, and then here we go. Then the user goes to this next one over here. So this is like, okay, where on your computer do you want to store this stuff? The next one is, well, how much space do you want this application to use? Like just fill up my hard drive, or do you want to limit it, basically? And then in here, with this little detailed settings, this is where, well, I don't like either of those two options. I want to have full control.
Yeah.
And then this screen here shows up, and that's when I get full control. Which, yeah, I don't know. I don't get this one, I guess, because if the location's already covered up here. Like here, that already covers location. And then recent blocks only. I mean, what other option is there? Store only the first 5 blocks in the blockchain? Joshua, that's also something that you mentioned, right?
For now, we just have two options. Do we want pruning and how much we want pruning? So these are the only two options for now in the storage detail settings. But since we have a detailed storage location page, providing the same information in a different page, which is talking about how much and not about where, it seems like repetitions of the same option.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now I get it. So this option here should really be moved.
Oh, right, now I get it. Okay.
This is the same option here. These two, these are the same. Lovely. Wow, such great style here. It's so stupid.
It's very clear. That's perfect.
Okay, so these are the same option. That's the point. Okay, and then this one here is an on-off toggle. Well, do we want to prune at all? And then this here is like, how much do we want to prune? Okay, so yeah. So over here, the only thing that we don't have here is the amount. This is basically an on-off with the default amount. Yeah. And the only extra thing you get in here is the amount that you can set, basically. So it's, I don't know, I'm not really pumped about how these settings are panning out, because there's almost barely anything that you get extra. We could do, instead of detailed settings, we could just have a little button here that says storage amount, and then you have like a little, I don't know, a whole screen just for this extra thing. Doesn't seem particularly useful.
So Christoph, I was thinking, if we could combine these two options, do we want pruning and how much we want pruning, to a single option where you could just select pruning amount to infinity, or some kind of a reference value which would represent that there is no pruning happening.
Yeah, I mean that's an implied. That's kind of weird if there's an implied thing like set it to. It's just like we had a discussion about Lightning invoices in the daily spending wallet. There was a thing that like if you create an invoice and you don't define an amount, then it says requesting 0 sats. Like as a user, that's weird. Like why would I send somebody an invoice over nothing, right? But what's actually happening is it is not defined, and then the person who pays can define the amount. But that is totally not obvious. So if your default, I guess it was not interesting to Johnny, but that's okay. Here it is. There you go. I spoke too fast. Anyway, so sorry. So it's not implying things by assuming that if something's 0, people will really know what all that means, or setting it to infinite, people will know what that means. That's not. I mean, for a developer, maybe that they can kind of make sense of that. But I would rather just have a clear, like, yep, reduce the space, and then, how much. Ideally, we could also say, well, your hard drive is 50 gigabytes. Yeah, sure, spam it. You have all this extra space, or like 2 terabyte. Or if it's like only 500 megs or gigabyte, then we make a recommendation for less for pruning. I think that would be ideal.
Okay. I'm also just wondering, the heading on the one far top right, the one that says storage.
Yeah.
That has to do with usage. It's how much of space it's using on your device.
Yeah.
Would that maybe the title be more maybe something, I don't know, like usage, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, storage amount.
Storage amount, something like that, yeah?
I mean, it makes sense in context. The first thing says storage location, the next one says storage amount.
Amount, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So I'm just going to sketch this up here real quick. So here's an alternative that we could do. So these bars here, I think we agreed that those are not particularly, they don't communicate particularly well. So here, maybe in here we just say, okay, no. Here this could say uses about 440 gigs, and then in here we have custom amount or something, right? There's an option here. Could be an icon, could be something else where it's just like, okay,
yep,
a custom amount or so. And that way we don't need
that third screen state.
This one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless, that's something that I really don't know, is if eventually we will have more options. I don't know. What
Christoph, I think we can move the custom option to the reduce option inside the reduce option. What I mean by that is that there are we can keep 2 options: reduce storage and default storage. Which default would store the whole blockchain, and the reduce storage would open a pop-up where you can select how much you want to provide space to it. So we can save space on a third option where we are saying custom storage.
Sorry, doesn't that also read as like a button instead of button? With the default.
Sorry, Johnny, I was not able to hear you.
Yeah, it's it's kind of weird if you just like, this doesn't look like it's gonna. I mean, it's the same thing. Not super happy. I think that's what you're saying, Johnny. Like opening, like clicking this, I don't expect there to be a pop-up.
Right.
I think we have to make some. I mean, sometimes a really small tweak is fine, is enough to indicate what it's going to do. But I don't think it's uncommon to have. I don't know. Okay, well, it's something we'll have to come up with a design solution for. Okay,
it's a good one because it eliminates that complete screen state at the bottom, the one that says.
Yeah. I mean,
details. But Christoph, we are not sure that we would in future would need the extra detailed setting option. So removing that state would be too early for in the development process, I think.
So you're not sure if we will need more settings?
Means there can be some advanced settings in the future that we might incorporate that would deal with how much of the storage thing. So we might need the storage setting again, detailed settings again. So just to means
you just leave it in for now.
Yes, I think that would be better.
Okay, then the okay, that makes sense then. Okay, I'm just going to change it real quick of this option button that indicates that a file selector will be. That's something we have to resolve. This you click something, it opens a modal. That has to be kind of obvious. Okay. Yeah, I assume that there'll be. I mean, my experience with these Bitcoin Core GUI settings and settings in other applications like this is that they really require a ton of discussion because they're pretty intricate, more intricate than you usually think at the beginning. So I assume all of these settings, there's going to be all kinds of tweaking, like single words and little arrows, and yeah, hard. I find it hard as a designer to come up with perfect solutions for these things. Maybe I'm just bad at it. That's okay.
No,
okay.
I can understand what you're trying to say. Because this particular project, especially Bitcoin GUI, is so complicated with so many intricate options. We have to, and on that we have to decide that which we have to keep in happy path and the not so happy path without having any user research. So we can understand why did this take so much discussion and before coming with the final design.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking of our proxy settings exploration. I mean, that was a fun one. Okay, cool. Do you want to keep going on this one, or should we move on to the next topic?
We can move on to the next topic.
Mo, you had a questions about the design documentation earlier. You were wondering where that copy can be read. You shared a link to a pull request that was merged.
Yeah.
Is this what you're looking for?
Okay. All right. So I can give feedback on that and just, it's a website. It's a live website. Okay.
Yeah. So the pull request that you sent, that was already merged into the site, because before there were really only 3 lines of text on this page. And I thought, okay, better to have this here than having nothing, because this kind of, and then it's easier for everyone to give feedback on it.
Yeah, you've been building this on your own. You've asked us to contribute, so I'm gonna have a look at it.
Awesome. Yeah, would super appreciate it. And yeah, eventually Gene pointed it out that he shared. Eventually, this also links to documentation for the developers, documentation for the translators, and cross-links all of this stuff. That would be ideal. But right now, we're kind of in our silo a little bit, I think. It's just about, for the design process, for the designers, putting all the information in here. And then I also need to, based on what we're doing with the settings, I can also update these screens here, because they're not up to date at this moment. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on this stuff?
I'm going to go click on the link very quickly. I think it's more what kind of, the target audience for reading this page are people who are thinking of contributing to Bitcoin Core, to the GUI.
Designers. It's the design documents.
The designers, only designers.
Because the developers, they have, Joshua, you can probably say, Johnny, you can probably both state this better than I do. GitHub is incredibly good for the whole development workflow and for how developers work, and they're super comfortable in that environment. And they have their own systems with README files and all kinds of stuff set up there. So they should continue to do that there with the way things have been set up in Bitcoin Core for a long time. But it clearly doesn't work for designers. So we can have our design discussion here, and we can showcase illustrations and our colors and all of the stuff that we want.
As well.
But then, of course, we need to cross-link and make sure. Yeah, so this is really just for people who want to either contribute to design, which is probably a very small team, but there might also be people who want to give feedback, review, just kind of follow along with the project. For developers, it could be interesting. Let's say a developer wants to work on some settings. They can easily see all the settings screens on one page and say, okay, this is kind of how it works, and these are some of the decisions that were made. And then it's easier for other people in the project to also contribute. But yeah, as working documents, this is for designers. As informational documents, it's for many other people too.
I'm wondering if maybe something, it might be interesting because the thought processes. I know that's very difficult to put into words.
And so there's a thing about principles, and I wrote this by myself, so it's probably not that great, and it needs all of your input too. I tried to just capture some of the things we discussed in the last 36 calls that we've had in the series.
Okay.
So I tried to keep it, because some of these were actually documented in the design repo before.
Yeah.
Like the simplicity with depth talks about, we focus on the happy path. We allow people to give them a few more options if they want to as a secondary access point. And then we have a developer experience with special settings and all of this stuff. That's a discussion we've had many times, right? It's like, beginners and advanced power users, whatever you want to call them. So then open design, that we want to do open collaboration, just some of this stuff. And then I think in each screen, in each of these pages, so there's general stuff like how the layout logic works. And then in each feature or page specific section, that's where we can discuss the design decisions and background and even developer notes about why things
that
are
makes sense.
Certain ways.
So in the individual, so it would kind of be similar to the Bitcoin design guide where you have first use, send, and all that kind of thing. You have these individual. Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
And block lock and first use are the only things that are in development right now. And the Explorer, console, and wallet is empty. And console and Explorer, those were two things that Gerald asked for explorations, I don't know, a couple months ago or so. So it's just, I think it says here, this is like first draft, like explorations.
Cool. So we could also add in the user flow when it's a little bit more ironed out as well.
Yeah, totally. We could have all kinds of stuff here, like information architecture, user flows, service blueprint, whatever we feel like is helpful for people to understand, to capture how this thing works, and for others to contribute, and for ourselves to remember what we decided 2 years earlier.
I will have a look at it tomorrow because you've been the only one actually creating this. So you've asked us a couple of times.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
I will look at it tomorrow.
And it's okay to it's just good to regularly come back to these and do small additions and small updates.
Yeah.
That's the best way to maintain this type of stuff. Yeah. So it's going to be the best design document the world has ever seen. At least we'll see. Let's make it happen. Okay, what else should we chat about?
I'll just say one comment. I'm actually blown away by this. I don't even know if you guys have design doc on this QML stuff. I would say you should make this front and center in the GitHub README.
Awesome. Which GitHub README? The one in the code?
The QML, at the very least, in the Bitcoin Core QML GUI folder.
Yeah. Okay, that's Gerald is actually working on he's trying to put together a designer productivity document, which is kind of similar to this, but so I think he's working on something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even just a link, because I didn't even know this website existed.
Christoph,
Awesome.
Is this also linked to the main websites that Bitcoin Core has?
So yeah, here at the the introduction page too, it says these are work in progress design documents, and then there's a link to the Bitcoin Core website, to the design repository, the main Figma file, and the code repository. Code repository is now for the QML code. So this, and then there's a Y, right? So yeah, I mean, if you have feedback on this intro page, there should also be a link to something like edit, improve these documents or something. Yeah, if you have feedback here, happy to make a pull request or just let me know. I'll update it. But yeah, I try to link to all relevant places here. Yeah.
Do you have a link of this particular documentation somewhere?
It's just bitcoincore.app.
Oh, okay, that one. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I think the better we can flesh this out, the more successful it will be as a collaborative, communal, open source project.
Is it an idea to, if it's probably already linked, maybe you've already done it, to link it to the top of the Slack channel? Maybe you've already done that.
Yep, it's already in there.
It's already in there? Yeah.
It's the wrong link though. I'm gonna update the link.
I didn't check. It was just oh yeah, you've updated it.
Okay, just updated it.
Yeah, you've updated. Yeah, I see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I think something good, according to this process here, whenever we are happy with the design, like right now we're happy with the settings, then one of the next actions is to update the design docs with them. So whenever we're like, okay, consensus around some design decision, let's make sure it lands in the docs. Yeah.
Oh, something also very abstract is also consensus around error messages for the GUI. Do we have something like that? I know that's really abstract, because I feel that's coming up now in the send flow as well, in those screen states that you designed.
What type of error messages?
Like, let me go have a look here. I was in the user flow, just a second. Figma. If they type in those entry fields an incorrect Bitcoin address, or if they decide to skip filling in the decide to skip filling in the I don't know, description, send description, is it optional to fill in, to skip the send description, or do they have to fill it in? Which of those entry fields are compulsory, which are not, that kind of thing.
So Jakob mentioned that a few weeks ago, and he said that he wants to help with fleshing out all those form fields, and error states are part of that. So he's trying to cover, and you can see something what he's working on in his workspace, and it's over here. So, he's trying to flesh out missing button states that we don't have, like focused and pressed. And I think he's also wanted to look at error states and disabled states for input fields and all of this stuff.
Ah, there we go. So there is something. Oh, perfect. Really nice. Really nice.
It's not complete yet. He's starting with this button component.
Yeah.
But then the same treatments, like the focus state, it'll just be the same treatment for all the other elements too. So
the error messages will fit into this domain, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll have to fit it here in the design system in where are our input fields. There are input fields somewhere. Don't know where they are right now. But yeah. That should all be in here in a standardized way. But I mean, error messages generally, there's a bunch of stuff. There's, the whole application broke something's not working, or you typed the wrong thing in, or something not working, but hey, here's how you fix it. It's like more like a tip type of deal. So there are different types of errors that can happen at different times that we need to address. Yeah. Another thing real quick that I'm trying to, that you saw me doing earlier maybe, was Jakob, this design for language selector on the intro screen. So that's what that, I just ported it from his file and had to recreate it using the Figma components in this document, but that would be it. Pretty straightforward. And then what else do you want to talk about? The send stuff, or we could talk over proxy settings.
The send stuff is pretty interesting. I was trying to change the user flow, which I've already created, with these new screens that you've designed. It's I was still working on it. I've only done the first one here. I was trying to figure out, I've only done the single sig send of the user flow, and trying to change it as to the screen states you've added in.
Okay. So Johnny, I don't know, sorry, I didn't share this earlier, but if you want to look at the Figma files, here's the link. And then the one that Mo just shared is this one here.
Thank you.
This one is, we're just trying to capture these user flows. Hey Mo, real quick, I put together these components at the bottom here.
That is perfect, Christoph.
So
that is where I need your design skills. Thank you.
I mean, you don't have to manually make sure the text field is the right size and whatnot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Like the color names are not accurate.
I tried to match the colors with the UI kit, but I'll just grab those colors again.
Yellow. Okay. So how did you find the flow? Did you watch the video? Did it make sense?
I only looked at your actual designs themselves. Let me just hop into that Figma file, and I'll share my screen with you. Here we go. Here. So I just took those screens that you designed, and I was just working on it. So I managed to. I've only focused on single sig send, and then I just, I created these two. Created this.
Okay, now I see it. Okay.
So if I zoom out and I go here, I've only finished this one. I was trying to. This is a little bit messy here. I was trying to differentiate between a modal and an actual screen state, because otherwise they're all screen states, and that's not really true. So this is an interaction, and this is a modal. So, I think that's a bit more specific than what I initially created, which are just screen, screen, and screen. Now what you've created here, it almost necessitates the need for modals, because you have a modal here, and once again
that's a drop down technically.
A drop down.
Yeah. It gets messy. Yeah.
I'm not trying. Okay, so this is the drop down, and then this is the modal.
Yeah, an overlay or a modal or something. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a drop down because there's a little button that makes it appear and disappear.
So we would need to differentiate between modals and drop downs. Good one. Okay, that's an interesting one for me. Okay, that's it. I mean,
yeah, and so the drop down is just it's just one line options, right? It's very simple, typically. The overlay, it can cover the whole screen for something like coin selection, where you just have potentially a long list of UTXOs to choose from, and it tells you how much Bitcoin you need to select and how much is left and whatnot. So it can get pretty intense. Yeah, just a quick note. Where you said enter details and it's a circle, there are in information design, UX stuff. I think they got this from a technical field. There are these diagram patterns where you have squares and rectangles and triangles, and then you're supposed to remember which shape represents what. And I found it usually pretty horrible from two transactions. First, because text in a triangle just never really fits.
No.
The second one, I could never remember. Like, is the triangle in action, or is like the square, the rectangle in action?
Okay.
And what is the circle like? The screen, like it's. I mean, if you do it all day long, kind of makes sense, right? But that's why I like just having like a label at the top that says, okay, this is a modal. This is a user action.
So maybe we can change them all to squares or rectangles. Those are not squares.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a couple. You can do two things. You can color code. I think the text is always helpful. You can just make it smaller so it doesn't overpower and get repetitive and annoying. And the color coding, you can use color coding for different sections of the application or different flows, which you did here. Or you can use color coding to enforce the type, like all user actions are blue, for example. So just, I don't know, there are ideas, but you can come up with whatever. I think you are our main flow master, mistress.
I love the user flows.
Here, so you can decide what you'd like to do.
Maybe we can do, just a quick thought, we can do all interactions as black. Every interaction can be like a black box, maybe.
I mean, just suggest something, and
I'll play around with it.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have a hard time fitting everything. Like if you're trying to create a single diagram that captures everything, every system has its limits somewhere.
That's the thing, it's I learned that an interaction is a circle. So I kind of have that in my brain somehow, but it's like I almost assume that everyone else also knows that an interaction is a circle.
Yeah.
And then it's like I would do a modal would be like a, like a what do we call a diamond shape. That would be a modal. But then, that's assuming everyone else knows that a circle is an interaction and a diamond is a modal, but it needs to work with everyone. So we can work with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you work closely. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, continue, Christoph.
I was just gonna say, if you work in a group of UX people, I think you can use these conventions. But if you want to make it broadly accessible to anyone who might be interested in the project, it's good to just be very explicit.
Yeah, I'll have a think of that. I'll create 2 different designs and see which one makes the most sense. I'll do one with all rectangles.
I think you can also experiment with adding legends to the. You can experiment with adding legends to top of the Figma file. Like circles means interaction, the square, the rectangle means something, the triangle means something, so that everybody can reference it, and also we don't have to you don't have to experiment with doing all the things with a single kind of diagram.
Yeah. Have you ever seen anything like that, Johnny, with a user flow or?
Yeah. Now your conventions are different for every designer, so
they're not conventions.
Everyone has their own thing, right? Every Figma I've seen looks different.
Yeah.
I think at the moment it's more Christoph's brain's conventions that I need to be tuning into, because because he's the one that's keep on going. He's going to be the one that's going to be going back to that flow. So if his brain.
But I mean, if you think about it, developers will come in here, translators, they might come in and they're like, okay, I see a triangle and I see a circle. Like, Okay, what does that mean?
You know, you've given me, I know the solution. It's basically just, you know, all squares. And at the top of the square, it's all the same design of squares. And it's just, it says interaction or modal or drop down.
Yeah, I mean, that way, you know, it's like labeling input fields. It's like, okay, just being very explicit. Yeah, I mean, maybe everybody else gets it. I don't get it, but I always have a hard time.
That is what we
What I'm seeing is quite readable, so I don't think you have to be too concerned. I think this is a lot of good information being conveyed in this chart.
It's a lot of information. Yeah, it's a lot of information.
And a bunch of stuff that we don't really, I mean, at least I don't really know yet. Maybe you do know, like, for example, when you turn a view-only wallet into a wallet that can also sign transactions, I have no idea what that flow would actually look like and what the options are. So I think all of this stuff will get a bunch of technical feedback. But I also wanted to give a shout out to Gene, who has been, you know, there's this thing about signing multi-sig transactions. And he came in and he also laid out some other screens, like about Bitcoin Core, about Qt, command line options. And he also did these explorations here around visualizing what signing multi-sig transactions look like. So here's one. You know, there are 3 keys. One of them is signed, 2 are pending. Here's this circle-based visualization. So real quick, tell me real quick, without looking at it too long, what does this mean? What's happening here?
That is, you have 2 different devices, and those 2 different devices are both signing in to confirm a transaction. Multi-sig, yeah, there we go.
It looks 3 of 3, maybe?
2 of 3.
3 of
3, yes.
Currently 2 of 3. Yeah.
I understand that. Good job, Gene. Good job.
Yeah, I guess the question here is then if you have to, sorry?
There is some kind of lag. That's why I just try to speak and then there's several kind of lag. So let me complete my statement. So how do you, with this particular representation of design, would represent a 2x3 multisig where you just need 2 out of 3 signer to confirm a transaction?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Gene did this exploration here, and then with any exploration, you kind of verify. You know, sometimes you design something and it works beautifully for one scenario, and then it falls apart if you try other scenarios. I don't know yet. I haven't looked into this closely. Maybe it works beautifully everywhere else too. Who knows? Maybe Gene knows because he did that. But yeah, that's the thing. So, and with a graphic like that, ideally you don't just see this the first time when you sign a transaction. You also see this when you set up a wallet. Like at the beginning, let's say you set up your wallet and you pick how many keys there are and how many you should transact. Maybe there are toggles at the top, and then this graphic updates. So you say like 2 keys, and then you see 2 circles. You pick 3 keys, and another circle slides in. Then you get like this little triangle.
Ooh,
you pick 4 keys, all of a sudden they rearrange, and it's like, you know. Then, so ideally, this is not something you encounter here the first time, but you set it up, and you learned it, and you will recognize it the next time you come across it.
And familiarity, why can I not pronounce that word, is so important in interfaces, that things are familiar for users. It's really, really something. It's, you know, likely, but have you seen this type of design in any other interface? Or is this just something that Gene came up with?
So let me pull. Kata has done this.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
There's a thread in Slack where Gene posted about this. Let me try to find it. Where did he post it? Okay, it's the second to last message here. Let me just copy paste this image in real quick. Not here. Yeah, so this is what Casa does. And I think he mentioned some other wallet that does this.
Nice.
So I've used Casa before, and I personally found this really confusing. First, because it looked broken, because it's cut off the screen.
Sides, yeah.
And then I was never quite sure, like, what is this thing in the center? I thought these things are decentralized. Like, why are they connected to each other in the center? And like, are these like, do they talk to each other, or like some stuff in here just wasn't clear to me.
The turquoise blue circle in the second screen connecting all the circles doesn't make sense. If well, maybe that's something else, a different concept. I would wonder why the blue circle is connecting everything, and what your home is connected to your bag is connected to, I don't know.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. I think I've had a hard time using this or making sense of it. So when we come up with a visual, we just need to make sure that it's easy to decipher. And maybe it just needs maybe everything just needs one label, or maybe it's obvious with some cool onboarding flow or so. But just as is.
Yeah,
it's a little bit difficult.
It is a thing presenting a concept to a user and expecting them to understand it before they've been exposed to it or educated about it. And then still, even if they are educated about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll remember, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah, so that's so I think it's cool to do these explorations, and I hope we come up with something that's super cool and intuitive and just easy to get.
Nice. At least he's come up with some initial ideas that we can just start to work around.
You know, another thing I'm curious about is device 1. So if you set it up, like, is this, you know, this computer, or it could be a person. If the three of us have a multi-sig, one of them could be Mo, one of them could be Shashvat, one of them could be Johnny. You know, I assume these are names that you put in here. And if it's a name, then, well, I guess it could be a little icon of a person here.
Yep.
Yeah. And then at some point, if somebody sets up a multi-sig with 20 transactions. But on the other hand, it would be good if, you know, everything's a circle right now. This should almost be not a circle in the center, but it should be a transaction. It should say sending 1 Bitcoin to, I don't know, or something that says this is a transaction. And it's like, it's collecting these little check marks or something.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bunch of stuff that can be done. This one's pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's cool.
Cool.
Glad we're. Yeah. So Johnny, in terms of the wallet, I'm not sure how much you read up on it, but the first version of the application will be just a node runner, and the second version will be the wallet. And we're really, for a few weeks now, we just kind of reviewed all of the existing screens of the old GUI or current GUI. And then we're just kind of going off and exploring different areas of it to figure out, to get it in our heads and, you know, discover. And then we make a huge mess, and then we're going to have to come up with something clean that makes sense.
I do notice that it seems very mobile driven, or at least it seems like you're constraining it to that a little bit. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, so that was initially all the designs were done, and it's still initially one of the idea was get nodes running on mobile, and the thing actually, with a little bit of development work, I think it compiles an Android binary already. It didn't work for me last time I tested it a month ago or so, but yeah, the idea is to make this platform agnostic and do a mobile first design, so we don't run into any problems later. That's why it's like single column, and the elements are a little bit bigger. And yeah, the idea is to have, and if you have Android experience, I'm sure the dev crew would love it if you'd like to help out there, because I think we're kind of short on that since ProMag started doing something else.
Yeah, no, it's that's kind of what I felt from the design. So it's good to hear you say it to kind of confirm what I intuitively felt the constraints of the design were.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and they were trying to also bake in, layout rules to make this as simple as possible. But I just assume if you have experience that you know how the difference between keyboard, mouse based input versus touch input and the different restrictions and the different ways that these native UI elements work with input fields and modals and all of this stuff.
Yeah, my experience is that ultimately you're going to end up with 2 apps, no matter how hard you try. But the closer they are, the easier it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we have awesome design and development docs, then more developers will join in, and we can build 2 apps. There we go.
Christoph, I just want to show you something quickly, just to me, okay? Mm-hmm. So I went into the user flow document again. Mm-hmm. So what I did was, is my screen visible? Yeah. So what I did now was I took away the circle, and I've got all squares. So we have overlay, interaction, and modal. Mm-hmm. That's more explicit?
Correct. That's more explicit. Like here's this saying, it's an interaction, it's a modal. And if you want to, you can even be more explicit. The thing is, if you only use a circle, then you can't possibly add any other detail to it.
Correct.
But when something's called an interaction, then you can add different. You can even describe what type of interaction it is. You can add more information to it. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit more clear that way.
I think you're right, because once the user flow separates and you have another interaction here, taking someone from here to here, then that's going to be interaction, and it's going to be completely something different. So if you can't enter in a lot of details here, then it's not going to be handy. Good one. Yep. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, Mo, what do you want to do next, design-wise?
Ooh, what do I want to do next, design-wise? I do actually feel like, because I've stayed away from the design for so long, I do think I would like to tackle one screen. Note, I say one screen, not one flow.
But I mean, user flows is also part of design. It's like
well, that's exactly. I'm really happy working on the user flows and just working on the updating the documentation, because those are like 2 different tasks.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm updating the documentation in GitHub, which just for Johnny, it's kind of like an update on what we talk about during all of these phone calls. If anyone wants to go and have a read, and then I work on the user flow, and I'm quite happy doing that.
You know what would be super awesome? If you could do...
Yeah.
Right. No, you're not done. Please go ahead.
No, and then I'll have a look at the website documentation that you've created, and I'll give some input there as well. What would be super helpful, Christoph? Research around?
If you could do a little bit of research around some of these gaps that we have.
Okay, and what are those gaps?
And this could be just Googling or searching the Bitcoin Core GUI issues and discussions. So this is a gap here. If it's possible if it's just even possible to convert a view-only wallet into a normal wallet that can send.
So can you convert a view-only wallet into a wallet that can send? Okay.
Something else I'm kind of curious about is, and this could be just this. Maybe it's Like what I do sometimes is I'll just Google it for half an hour. If I don't find anything, I'll ask somebody. I don't know if you have thoughts on this one or if anybody knows or how the current GUI handles this. If I create a multi-sig transaction and I send it to you to sign it, is it still visible somewhere in the UI? Can I still see it?
I'm not sure I know about it. I know that you can create a PSBT transaction by signing it yourself and sending it to someone else. But the PSBT transaction still shows in your UI. I'm not sure if that happens.
Yeah.
You can check if that particular PSBT has been signed by how many people. So maybe we can show it in the UI by rechecking it again and again in a set amount of time.
But let's say the four of us need to sign it. Then I create it, I send it to you, Shashwat, right? And then let's say somewhere in my UI, in the activity screen, it could say transaction waiting for more confirmations in a better way, right? But once you sign it and send it to Mo, I can never know that. That's only between the two of you, right? I will never know if let's say it never goes through, I will never know if you didn't sign it or Mo or if Johnny didn't sign it. I don't know where it is, right? Because it doesn't get broadcast anywhere else. I just know I send it to one of you. And one of you, I can send it to all three of you, but that doesn't really help because the file needs to linearly go across.
Yes, serial in a serial way. It has to go because the same file needs to be signed by 4 people. Yes, I think this is the way the thing happens. So I don't think we can keep a UI element which keeps updating as more people keep signing it.
Because those multi-sig screen states that 2 of 3, 3 of 3 that Gina's designed, they would come possibly at the end, that third user flow there at the bottom. That's where that's possibly going to go in.
This one here, yeah. And there's a difference if you're the only, if it's your wallet and you just have 2 extra devices lying around and you plug them in one by one, then totally makes sense, right? You just sign the one on your desktop, you plug in your one hardware wallet, and you sign it there. Then you plug in the other one, you sign it there, and on your screen you see the circles light up. Makes total sense, right? But if I send it to other people and they have to sign it, then that screen doesn't make sense because I will not know when you sign it or not.
No,
it's not being broadcast anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think. Just digging into some of these open questions that we have, doing a bit of research, mocking things up, doing some more designs or diagrams or so, I think that's helpful. And I think the send and create wallet is what we wanted to look at, right?
Create wallet.
I think
those were the 2 first flows we wanted to cover, right?
Yeah.
Christoph, I think when the PSBT is signed and the the transaction is ready to broadcast, I think the node can know that the particular transaction that they created as a PSBT has now been completely signed. So maybe we can modify that circular filling of the circle kind of way to just a blipping, just to say a kind of a blipping circle which says waiting for other signers. And when that particular transaction is broadcasted, the node can know that the transaction was completed and hence was signed, and it can say the transaction completed and move it to the broadcasted transactions.
Yeah, once it's in the mempool, I think that's when we can say, okay, it went through. But before that, the application doesn't know if it has been signed or not. And if it looks like, okay, it's waiting to be signed, then the user might think, well, it's not signed yet. But the thing is, it might have already been signed by a person. It's just not broadcast. The application doesn't know.
Okay.
And Christoph, there's one question. If I create a multi-sig transaction and send it, is it still visible in the UI? Is that is that like a confirmation, like message on the screen, or is that how is that?
So it's probably something like this here, where Okay, and it's like waiting for 2 more signatures, and I'm just like, this is horrible copy here, but you know, something like that. It's like, okay, it's pending.
Yeah, because you would move away from that screen state, go do other stuff. You're not going to stay on that screen state waiting for the confirmations from the other parties. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing then, if somehow, let's say it never gets signed, then how do I get it out of here?
Yeah.
So yeah, with pending transaction, you can also, actually something that we don't have here either is something we need to figure out is if I want to speed it up or cancel it, pending transactions.
Yeah, that was
so there's a bunch of stuff, and the activity page in the design guide might be helpful for figuring this out. But yeah, you know, I think just digging into screens here, figuring out, well, what do we need to state here? How do we also try to do the same?
Recording is on.
Just help design what Shashwat and Gerald need for implementation, and then fill in gaps and all this other stuff.
Another I had one of the, when I was doing the usability test on Blixt, I had one of the devs actually make a very interesting comment, and he said, it surprised me a little bit, you know, because he's a dev, but you know, it's not to say that devs don't have
stereotypes coming through here. Unbelievable.
But he said, you know, he was like, there's no hierarchy in the screen. We were on the send screen where we had to enter in all of the details. And he spoke about hierarchy. He said, well, you know, the amount and then the transaction details. Okay, fine. Yeah, but you know, the fee is not that important to me. Well, that's a Lightning fee. So he was like, well, you know, you can make that a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. Is that like a thing in the GUI? Like, because I'm noticing that all the form fields and stuff, they're all kind of the same, which I think is really good because it's very uniform. But that removes any hierarchy, which he brought into my mind. And I'm still with saying that I'm not even sure if hierarchy is necessary. I'm just wondering how.
Which was that a screen on Blixt?
Yeah, it was a send screen. The send screen where you enter in the amount and the information. Which one was it? Transaction details screen. Maybe towards the end. Yeah, this one. This is the one. Confirm payment screen. He made a comment here about, oh, well, you know, the amount is the same, the recipient is the same, the fee is the same, you know, there's no hierarchy here. And he was like, well, in my opinion, the fee could be a little bit smaller because fees are not so much, you know. So I found that interesting.
Well, okay. So what are your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I don't know actually what my thoughts are on it, if I can be very honest. I don't know if I do agree with him that the fee is of lesser priority in a Lightning wallet because it's of such a small amount. But then visually, that kind of just distorts the uniformity of everything. You know, it kind of just distorts everything. You know. Because then you're doing fonts in different sizes, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know actually.
Yeah. So, so the first thing before, like in the first split second when you look at the screen, you see something like this. It's like a blurry version of it, and that's when your eyes kind of figure out like what's the most important thing, and you clearly see this rectangle at the bottom. That instantly draws your eye to it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, right? The other part that people do is in the Western world, we read from top left to bottom right. So there's this diagonal scanning happening. Mm-hmm. So I mean, in that sense, that way. So that kind of makes sense. Then you have the color hierarchy, which is a little bit weird here, because if I squint a little bit less here, everything orange stands out more than everything white.
Yep.
So one of the first thing I see is the word Sats.
Yep.
One of the next things I see is Berlin Beer Cafe. Then I see Sats again. And so it's kind of weird that just the word Sats here stands out. So in that like from a color hierarchy, I don't think this is a bit off. And then you have your scale hierarchy, which is a little bit similar to the first squint impression. Just bigger stuff stands out more. And I think here you could tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, there we go.
You could
change those to orange.
Just very, very slight. And then, I would figure out, like, what does orange communicate here? Are orange things that I can edit? Why is anything orange? A lot of times in modern UI design, you just have a lot of white. Let me see. You have a lot of black and white, and then one color that's used to indicate action. This is something I can interact with, that I can click.
There we go.
So in that case,
that would be orange too. Yeah.
Like that makes sense then. So yeah, so that's, and that's another thing to consider too, is giving feedback on a single screen is helpful, but you also have to make sure in the end you're going to have a design system. You're going to have like 5, 7 text sizes. You're going to have 3 different button sizes. And for the sake of development and also designer sanity, you really want to, have a good set of Lego blocks and then just use those.
Keep it
instead
simple.
of tweaking, like, oh, over here it's a little bit long, because sometimes too, it could be that, yes, if I tweak the text size with the word Berlin Beer Cafe and 10 sats in here, it might look good, but if I have a 2-line description and it says 2 million sats, then it might look silly again. So you have to be careful not to over-optimize for just one particular screen and the particular layout, which may also be different if, let's say, this is this screen is iPhone 13 size, but it might look slightly different if you're on iPhone SE size, which is a lot smaller. So yeah, I think that's good feedback to have. And hierarchy has many layers to it. Just need to figure out what it is about the hierarchy that's problematic. And in the end, the final design, I need to make sure you keep your design system.
So the moral of the story for me is
it's complicated.
It's complicated, and you devs can also have a very good eye for design as well. So do not underestimate your eye for design.
But that's the main thing. It starts where it says it's just not right. Something's off here, and then you just kind of need to dig, and then you can design 5 different versions and say, well, what about this? Or ask more questions. Well, what about it? What do you think? And it could be all kinds of things. Maybe the design could be improved, or maybe they need glasses, or I don't know, something else. Maybe there's it's super bright light outside and it's just a lot of reflection on the screen. Who knows?
So it's better to establish hierarchy with a few basic building blocks, as opposed to changing font sizes and all these kinds of things, because it just leads to more complexity.
Yeah, per screen adjustment is not something you want to do.
No. Yeah. Okay.
And that's one of the art about design systems, is coming up with guidelines and patterns that are logical and make sense and accommodate all kinds of different needs, but that are also can be combined in really good ways, in all the different ways that you need, where it's just flexible and versatile and still looks good.
Just grab the block, you know, entry fields, everything. If you can enter information, it's orange, simple, easy to understand. And that just moves from to every single screen state. I will look at the good Bitcoin Core GUI for that consistency then in the in the designs. You taught me, so now I'm going to look for it.
Yeah, and it's never no, it's
never perfect. Everywhere. No. But yeah, thanks for that.
It's complicated. And you know, one of the interesting things is that I used to work with a couple of designers, and they would send me designs, and I would ask them, did you design this on your iMac? Because I could tell when they always worked with a big iMac screen and a MacBook Pro next to them. And I could tell when they designed on the iMac because everything was just way too big. You could put it on a smaller screen, it was like, it doesn't fit, and everything's so huge. What happened? And after a while, after I saw the workspace, okay, you designed this on your iMac. So, you know, point being that your own design tools will trick you.
Yes. Yeah. And also that it takes a while to develop, I think, an eye and a feel of how to. It's also that it's the hierarchy, I think, also brings consistency amongst all the screen states. You know, if every single entry field is orange, then the user's brain automatically gets trained to recognize them. It's like, oh, orange, oh, I can enter something in here, you know. It's that consistency.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of screens. You know, that's why stuff like this overview here, it's good to just use the same stuff. I mean, almost all the screens use the same because it's really more of a user flow and whatnot. And it's good when any screen where you just like, there's nothing exciting, you just enter like some piece of text and it's like, okay, you just want to move on, nobody really cares. They're functional, they're practical. And then there are these key moments. It's like you're signing your special transaction with all your keys, or you just created a new wallet and it was super complicated. Or the first time you used the wallet, those are like special moments. That's when, you know, it's cool to do something more unique, maybe.
Yeah, a bit out of the normal design. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Cool. We're at an hour 15. What else would you like to chat about? Because we also have a call tomorrow around the same time. No earlier, I think. But we can also use.
This was one of the longest call of the last 37 calls we have. 36 calls we have.
We've discussed some really interesting stuff. I mean, people could look back on this call and take down notes. This is like a whole university lesson.
Yes.
You're very optimistic.
You can start it in the
people would rather watch like cat videos and weird stuff on TikTok than anything worthwhile. But yeah, I hope so too. It'd be cool.
Hey, do you want to learn about visual hierarchy in your UX design? Have a look at this YouTube video. Don't say the rest what we discussed. Let them reach the 50-minute point to get to that.
No, I would rather watch a TikTok.
You know, they'll be waiting to learn for that visual hierarchy part.
The one thing this generation lacks is patience.
You know, so yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Cheers,
guys.
Thank you all.
I'm gonna go make dinner.
Yep.
Johnny,
thank you for joining, Johnny.
Yeah, that was great. That was interesting. I got a lot to learn, I think. Do you post these videos on YouTube somewhere specifically?
Yeah, Bitcoin Design Channel. They'll be on YouTube
and
Bitcoin TV.
Trying to catch up.
Awesome. Yeah, this is actually the first, for this call series, we haven't been good at creating videos. For the design calls, the last 3, 4, we have posted videos, but we're trying to do this more consistent recording now.
Yeah, very cool stuff.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
Cheers.
Talk with you soon then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.